fourth episode of a crash course series for TYBCOM students. As we all know, this crash course series is organized to clear the last time doubts of the students and to provide them the guidance for each subject, how to write the papers in the exam. So today we have the crash course for direct and indirect taxes, which is one of the applied component. And to deliver the session, we have among us the most experienced and senior faculty of direct and indirect tax, that is Dr. C.A. Bhavne Binwani ma'am. As every time, ma'am, she spares the precious time for our student to deliver the lecture. So I thank ma'am to spare the valuable time and to deliver the session. Ma'am has a lot of accolades in her name. She is completed her chartered accountancy and doctorate, and she is a guest lecturer for various practical subjects in commerce. Ma'am is university paper setter, examiner, as well as moderator. So I think she is one of the best choice for this crash course series. And there are many more achievements by Bhavna ma'am. The time will be less for describing each and every achievement. So without wasting much time, I will request ma'am to take over the charge of the session and deliver the session for the students. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam, for this wonderful introduction, and thank you for inviting me for this session. Ma'am, shall I share my PPT?
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead.
Reena madam, is it visible properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just 1 second, ma'am. Ma'am, shall I close my video? Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But if it is possible, keep it on. Otherwise, you can.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Yes. No issue. Good morning, students. So we are here to discuss about your direct and indirect taxation paper 1, which is specifically direct tax for TYBCOM semester 5. Before I start with this paper, just a small thing. This is a applied component paper, and for all the students, it is compulsory to attempt the applied component paper from the college itself. And this paper would be conducted by university on 29th of October 2024.
Excuse me,
yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt
Yes,
you.
yes.
Have you shared the PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
PPT is not visible. This is the screen of.
This is only the first screen.
Okay, because this is not the PPT.
Ma'am, it is a PPT only, no?
It is showing the list of files.
Okay, okay. 1 second, ma'am. 1 second.
Yeah,
1 second, ma'am.
yeah.
Yeah. Just give me 2 seconds.
Now it is visible now. First screen.
Yes, ma'am. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So the paper name itself is Direct and Indirect Taxation, Paper 1. In semester 5, we are expected to learn entirely about direct taxation. Yeah. To begin with, First of all, the paper pattern for the examination. Question number 1A for the paper is objectives. Here it can be any type of the objective. It can be MCQ, it can be filling the blanks, it can be match the following, and it can be true or false. The general thing, what we are observing from the last few years after COVID, in this objective, generally the university is asking MCQs, and we have to attempt out of 12 any 10. Then again, question 1B is also objective, where it can be. Reena madam, it is audible properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Question number 1B, again objectives, where it is expected to have either true or false or match the following, carrying 10 marks. Then we have question number 2, numerical. This question is subdivided into two parts, question number 2A and 2B. The expected thing here is two sources separately can be asked, like we can have a question on income on salary plus income from other sources. We can have a question income from house property and income from other sources, or we can have a question simple numerical on profit and gains along with income from other sources. This is generally question number 2. Question number 3, what the trend we are observing is generally a full-fledged question of 20 marks where at least two sources and two deductions would be asked. The trend what we observed is one type question they are asking based on income from salary plus income from house property plus income from other sources and any one or two deduction. That is one part. The second part what they are asking is profit and gains from business or profession along with deduction and along with other sources. This is 20 marks question. Question number 4, as the syllabus is entirely to be covered, so generally in question number 4, numerical problem based on capital gains for 10 marks and any type like source of income for 10 marks or residential status for 10 marks. Residential status, though in the syllabus, we have for all the category of person, but to make a problem of 10 marks, generally they are asking residential status for individuals only. Then we have question number 5A, theory question for 10 marks. Question number 5B, again a theory question for 10 marks. Here, we had observed from last attempts that question on types of incomes, question on various categories of income, question on exempt income, question on, you can say 2 or 3 definitions together they are putting here. While coming to the last part, question number 5, short notes, where at least one definition is expected from the 5 definitions of the syllabus. One definition can come from salary chapter, one from capital gains, maybe deductions from salary chapter, maybe deduction from house property. Like that, such type of short notes are asked in question number 5. Now to start with the syllabus start as income tax is introduced first time in TYBCOM. So every act when it is starting first time in any of the year, it starts with definition. The syllabus is restricted to only 5 definitions which are under section 2. We have definition of person. If the question comes on person, it is expected to write all the 7 categories of person with explanation. Then we have on previous year and assessment year. If short note come on previous year and assessment year, it would be coming together for 5 marks. Definition of assessee can be asked. The definition for income generally they are not asking. They are asking any 8 items or any 10 items of income in question number 5 for 10 marks. So this definition topic is having a weightage of 5 marks compulsorily in the paper, plus 2 objectives would be based on these definitions. Person definition is very simple, which would be covering all the 7 categories like individual, HUF, company, firm, AOP, BOI, local authority, and any artificial judicial person. If you are writing the definition for person, you are expected to give 1 or 2 examples. When you are explaining previous year, you are going to explain previous year along with the explanation. and it is compulsory to mention that this examination, the previous year is 2023-24. Same thing for the assessment year. It is compulsory to mention that for our examination, the assessment year is 24-25. Assessee, when you are explaining the definition of assessee, it is expected that students should mention about assessee in default. That means if any assessee has done any mistake, he would be called as assessee in default. Also, it is compulsory to mention representative assessee along with one example of representative assessee. When it comes to the question of income, they are categorically asking explain any 8 items of income or explain any 10 items of income. That is expected from this definition topic. Moving ahead, the second topic for income tax is residential status. Before we discuss about residential status, you have to understand throughout India, this is the only one section which identify whether you are resident or non-resident. In any of the act, if you have to identify any category of person as resident or non-resident, it would always be mentioned looking to section 6(1) of the Income Tax Act. Now, on this residential status, we were expecting a question of 10 marks in question number 4. Now, what is residential status as per section 6(1) of the Income Tax Act 1932? Section 6(1) determine whether it is resident or non-resident. For determining an individual as resident and non-resident, we have to check 2 conditions. One is the basic condition, would say if your stay in the previous year. Dear student, remember your stay in the previous year means in the year 2023-24 only. So if your stay in the previous year is 182 days or more, in that year, you become resident. Or the second condition is if your stay in India for the current previous year, that means 23-24, is 60 days, and in the previous 4 years, means starting from 2019-20, 19-20, 20-21, 21-22, 22-23, इन 4 सालों में अगर आपका stay 365 days है, then you become resident. For the current previous year 60 days and for the 4 previous year together 365 days. Also, you have to check the additional condition. If you are Indian citizen leaving India for the purpose of employment or as a member of crew, 60 days in the second condition would be replaced by 182 days. Or if you are a person of Indian origin का मतलब या तो आपके father, parents या grandparents इंडिया में born होने चाहिए या without partition when India Pakistan was together उसमें born हुए हैं, then and you are coming to India for the purpose of visit, then 60 days would be replaced by 182 days. So section 6(1) define only whether you are resident or non-resident. Once you are declared resident, section 6(1) के हिसाब से अगर आप resident declare हो जाते हो, then we have to check the additional condition which is under section 6(6) that determines your status as resident and ordinarily resident if you fulfill the condition. If you are not able to fulfill the condition, it would be resident but not ordinarily resident. अब condition क्या है? Very simple, 2 condition है. पहली 7 सालों में within 7 years आप इंडिया में 730 days होने चाहिए. सेकेंड कंडीशन, पीछे 10 सालों का स्टेटस देखा जाएगा. अगर आप किसी भी 2 साल में रेसिडेंट हैं, then you become resident and ordinarily resident. So this is section 6(1) and section 6(6). Dear students, sometimes it happens that they put a very simple question and the status of the individual is declared as non-resident. ऐसा भी पेपर में कभी कभार आ जाता है जहां पे आप रेसिडेंट की जगह पे नॉन रेसिडेंट डिक्लेयर हो जाओगे। तो प्लीज उसमें कंफ्यूज मत होना, जानबूझ के कभी कभी ऐसा क्वेश्चन भी पेपर में आ जाता है। So this is question number 4, one part of question number 4. Now we have after decision, after your status declaration, we are going to identify कौन से status को कौन सी income taxable हो सकती है। Scope of income is a very general idea. For example, if any income is received in India, that would be taxable for all the categories of person. If there is any income accrue or arised in India, say मुझे income हाथ में receive नहीं हुई है, for example salary income, मुझे salary income 10th of next month को receive होती है, current month में मुझे अभी तक receive नहीं हुई है, such income would be called as income accrued or arised in India. So if there is any income accruing or arising in India, then also it would be taxable for all the categories. If there is any profit and gains from a business outside India, controlled from India, then it would be taxable for all the categories. But if the business is controlled from outside India, then it would be taxable for first two categories. Lastly, every problem on the scope of income would be having this point: past untaxed profit brought to India. That means if there are any past previous year's profits which you are bringing to India, that would not be taxable in any of the category. Remember very well, this last one would not be taxable in any of the category. So on this scope of income, again we are expecting a question for 10 marks. Then moving to the various heads of income. See, we have definitions, we have residential status, then we have scope of income, then the syllabus would be narrowing down to only one category of residential status, that is resident and ordinarily resident. All the numerical problems for all the sources would be based on one residential status, that is resident and ordinarily resident. And we would be doing numerical problems only on one legal status, individual. We don't have any problem for partnership firm or a company. Only we have problems based on individual and also only one residential status, that is resident and ordinarily resident. Now to begin with, there are 5 sources of income. जो भी income मुझे कहां से भी derive होगी, I am going to classify that income into these 5 sources only. The first source is income from salary. Now, income from salary, we have 3 important sections: Section 15, Section 16, and Section 17. Section 15 is the basis of charge. जो भी इनकम रहेगी उसका सबसे पहला सेक्शन यही एक्सप्लेन करेगा कि उस सोर्स के अंदर कौन सी इनकम को हम चार्ज कर सकते हैं, which in the technical language called as basis of charge. Now first of all, for the salary income सबसे जरूरी है एम्प्लॉयर और एम्प्लॉई का रिलेशनशिप. If there is no employer-employee relationship, then that income would not be charged under the heading salaries. Salary, it would be taxable either on the receipt basis or on due basis. Very important to understand, bonus is taxable only and only on the receipt basis. Also, for example, if an individual receives salary for more than one source, मतलब मैं 2 जगह पे जॉब कर रही हूँ, मॉर्निंग में कॉलेज में जॉब कर रही हूँ, इवनिंग में कहाँ पे और जॉब कर रही हूँ, so if there are more than one employer, then also both the employers' salary would be chargeable under the same source, income from salary. And if you receive any arrears of salary, it would also be charged in the year of receipt. Now, as per Section 17(1), This is the definition given about salary. Salary includes wages, any annuity or pension. Annuity means anything whatever you are going to receive at the fixed intervals, and pension is one of the example of annuity. Any fees, any commission, any perquisite, or any profit in lieu of salary. Profit in lieu of salary means any addition to the salary would also be called as salary. Any advance salary, जैसे दिवाली के टाइम पे लोग एडवांस के लिए बोनस एडवांस लेते हैं. एनी लीव सैलरी मीन्स मुझे हर साल लीव लेना अलाउड है, मैं लीव नहीं ले रही हूँ और वो लीव मेरे अकाउंट में एक्यूमुलेट हो जा रही है और उसके मुझे पैसे मिल रहे हैं, दैट इज नथिंग बट लीव सैलरी. एनी अमाउंट ट्रांसफर टू द रिकॉग्नाइज्ड प्रोविडेंट फंड. नाउ every employer has to deposit a amount in the provident fund जो एम्प्लॉय को रिटायरमेंट पे मिलेगा. एम्प्लॉय कितना भी अमाउंट उसमें जमा करे देयर इज नो इशू, लेकिन एम्प्लॉयर उसमें 12% ही जमा कर सकता है. इफ एनीथिंग in excess of 12% is deposited, that excess amount would be taxable. And any other payment or the benefit due to employer-employee relationship would be chargeable as income from salary. Three different forms of salary income are advance salary, which can be taxable on the receipt basis, arrears of salary on the receipt basis, bonus and commission also on the receipt basis. कंपनी ने बोनस अनाउंस कर दिया लेकिन मुझे हाथ में अभी तक नहीं मिला है, it would not be taxable. Once it is received, then only it would be taxable. Leave salary is important. Leave salary, if the employee receives during the tenure of the job, it is taxable. लेकिन यही leave salary अगर मुझे retirement पे मिल रही है, then there is a provision under section 10 that some amount would be exempt. यही leave salary मैं गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय हूं और मुझे मिल रही है, देन इट इज फुली एग्जेम्प्ट. अगेन लीव सैलरी अगर एम्प्लॉय की डेथ हो जा रही है और लीव सैलरी उसके फैमिली को मिल रही है या उसके लीगल हेयर को मिल रही है, वो भी एग्जेम्प्ट है. आपके लिए यहाँ पे इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट ये है, यू हैव टू चेक इन द क्वेश्चन लीव सैलरी रिसीव कब हो रही है. जनरली क्वेश्चन में आएगा लीव सैलरी रिसीव्ड ड्यूरिंग द टेन्योर ऑफ द जॉब, so it would be taxable. Gratuity, it is a retirement benefit. The maximum amount exemption for gratuity is rupees 10 lakhs, but for the government employee, it is fully exempt. Now coming to the pension, generally pension is asked in the paper. If you receive pension monthly, if you are any type of employee, let it be government, let it be non-government, entirely taxable. But if you receive the same pension in lump sum, जिसको इनकम टैक्स में बोला जाता है कम्यूटेड पेंशन, मेरी लाइफ स्पैन डिसाइड करके मेरा पूरा का पूरा पेंशन इकट्ठा दिया गया, दैट इज द कम्यूटेड पेंशन. सो इफ आई एम गेटिंग कम्यूटेड पेंशन एंड इफ आई एम अ गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय, 100% exemption. If I am a non-government employee not receiving gratuity, half is exempt. If I am a private employee receiving gratuity, 1/3 of the commuted would be exempt. Now, salary के साथ साथ अगर मुझे और भी कुछ मिल रहा है वो भी taxable होगा. जैसे मुझे अलावेंसेस मिलते हैं, DNS अलावेंस, सिटी कंपेंसेशन अलावेंस, हाउस रेंट अलावेंस, एजुकेशन अलावेंस, सैलरी के अलावा मुझे जो भी कुछ मिला दैट इज टैक्सेबल. जो मुझे पैसे में मिला उसे बोला जाता है अलावेंस. पैसों के अलावा मुझे अगर नॉन मॉनिटरी बेनिफिट मिलता है, इट इज कॉल्ड एज perquisite. Perquisites are defined under section 17(2) of the Act. Coming to the perquisites, there are various types of perquisite like rent free accommodation. मोटर कार, मुझे कार दी गई है, मेरे घर पे सर्वेंट है, उसकी सैलरी मेरी कंपनी दे रही है, मुझे लैपटॉप मिला है, मुझे लंच प्रोवाइड किया जाता है, मेरे को ऑफिस आवर्स में नाश्ता प्रोवाइड किया जाता है. There are certain perquisites which are taxable and certain perquisites which are not taxable. Like company gives you a laptop, it is not non-taxable. Company provide you snacks and tea during the office hours, not taxable. Company providing you lunch, taxable. कंपनी की खुद की हॉस्पिटल है और उसमें वो आपको मेडिसिन प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, नॉट टैक्सेबल. सो फ्यू आर टैक्सेबल, फ्यू आर नॉट टैक्सेबल. After calculation of salary income, deductions are allowed under section 16. Only and only 3 deductions. Even you can get a short note on this. Deductions under section 16. सबसे पहला डिडक्शन क्वेश्चन में कभी भी नहीं दिया रहेगा और आपको वो अलाउ करना ही है. स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन ₹50,000 और योर सैलरी विच एवर इज लेस. Second one is entertainment allowance. Students, remember, for your previous year, standard deduction is 50,000. For the next previous year, don't mix it up. For the next previous year, it is 75,000. जो अभी बजट रिलीज हुई उसमें 75,000 का स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन बताया गया है, लेकिन वो नेक्स्ट ईयर की बजट में है. आपके ईयर के लिए इट इज 50,000 ओनली. द सेकेंड वन इज एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस. This is available only and only to the government employee. Government employee को अगर entertainment allowance मिलता है, then only this deduction is applicable. The deduction is ₹5,000, 20% of the basic salary or actual amount received, whichever is less. And the third deduction for the salaried employee is profession tax. प्रोफेशन टैक्स का डिडक्शन आपको तब मिलेगा जब आपकी सैलरी में से प्रोफेशन टैक्स डिडक्ट होगी. जनरली डिडक्शन का अमाउंट होगा ₹200 पर मंथ और 2,500 इन अ ईयर. दिस इज 3 डिडक्शंस अलाउड टू सैलरीड एम्प्लॉय. सो सेक्शन 15 बेसिस ऑफ चार्ज, सेक्शन 16 डिडक्शन, सेक्शन 17 definition of salary and perquisites. This is overall about income from salary. एक बात याद रखो, इनकम फ्रॉम सैलरी में कहां पे भी अगर एग्जेम्पशन होगा तो वो ब्रैकेट में लिखा हुआ होगा. लाइक एजुकेशन अलाउंस, ₹100 पर स्टूडेंट पर चाइल्ड अप टू 2 चिल्ड्रेन पर मंथ, वो ब्रैकेट में मेंशन होगा. परक्यूजिट की वैल्यू आपको खुद से नहीं कैलकुलेट करनी है, क्योंकि आप TYBCOM में फर्स्ट टाइम इनकम टैक्स कर रहे हो, तो परक्यूजिट की वैल्यू भी कैलकुलेटेड होगी. आपको कुछ नहीं करना है. सैलरी चैप्टर में आपका सिर्फ बेसिक काम ये है चेक करना है कि क्या टैक्सेबल है और क्या टैक्सेबल नहीं है. जितना भी टैक्सेबल है उनको ऐड करना है, स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन देना है, एंटरटेनमेंट अलाउंस अगर एप्लीकेबल है देना है, प्रोफेशन टैक्स अगर डिडक्ट हुई है तो माइनस करना है. इतना ही हमारे लिए सैलरी चैप्टर इंपॉर्टेंट है. नाउ मूविंग टू द सेकेंड सोर्स, इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी. आई टोल्ड यू whatever source of income we have, every time it is basis of charge कि किसके ऊपर टैक्स लगाई जाएगी, इनकम क्या होगी. फॉर हाउस प्रॉपर्टी द बेसिस ऑफ चार्ज इज एनुअल वैल्यू. प्रॉपर्टी की कितनी कैपेसिटी है इनकम अर्न करने की, उसको बोला जाता है एनुअल वैल्यू. कैपेसिटी है, चाहे वो अर्न हो रही है या नहीं वो अलग बात है, लेकिन उसकी कैपेसिटी कितनी है वैल्यू इनकम अर्न करने की. नाउ व्हाट आर द कंडीशंस फॉर द प्रॉपर्टी. द फर्स्ट कंडीशन इज द प्रॉपर्टी मस्ट कंसिस्ट ऑफ बिल्डिंग एंड लैंड. बिल्डिंग का मतलब ये नहीं है 3 फ्लोर 4 फ्लोर की बिल्डिंग हो. एनी स्ट्रक्चर जिसको दीवारें हैं और छत है हम उसको बिल्डिंग बोलेंगे. और बिल्डिंग और वो जो आपका स्ट्रक्चर है उससे लैंड जो कनेक्टेड है, दैट इज लैंड अपॉर्चुनेट देयर टू. The assessee must be the owner of the property. आप owner होने बहुत compulsory हैं. And the property should not be used for the purpose of business. It means the property should be used for and for only residential purpose. How to calculate annual value? These are the 4 criteria. Actual rent received or receivable. First of all, we have to compare municipal value with the fair rent. Whatever you get, it is called as reasonable retail value. That reasonable retail value would be compared with the standard rent. Whichever is higher would be compared. You cannot go more than standard rent, but whichever is higher, that would be compared with the actual rent. Again, whichever is higher, that would be the gross annual value. Now, we categorize the house property into various categories. जिस घर में मैं खुद रह रही हूँ, that would be called as self-occupied property, and the gross annual value of the self-occupied property is 0. जो घर मैं रेंट पे दे रही हूँ उसकी हम एनुअल वैल्यू निकालेंगे. जो घर न मैं खुद रह रही हूँ न मैं रेंट पे दे रही हूँ, खाली पड़ा हुआ है, उसको हम बोलेंगे डीम्ड टू बी लेट आउट प्रॉपर्टी. मतलब एक घर पे मैं खुद रह रही हूँ, एक घर मैंने छोड़ दिया है, तो जो ऐसे खाली रखा है, मैं कभी कभार वीकेंड पे जाती हूँ, तो उसको हम बोलेंगे डीम्ड टू बी लेट आउट प्रॉपर्टी. Now, how to calculate the value? Gross annual value. I told you for the self-occupied property, it is 0. For let out property, we will calculate. For deemed to be let out property, it would be calculated in the manner for let out property. Less municipal taxes paid by the owner. Categorically paid by the owner. कभी कभी आपका टेनेंट पे करेगा तो वो आप माइनस नहीं कर सकते. क्वेश्चन में जानबूझ के दिया जाएगा म्युनिसिपल टैक्सेस पेड बाय टेनेंट, तो उसको इग्नोर करना है. Then net annual value, only 2 deductions are available. Standard deduction, 30% of the net annual value. Then interest on borrowed capital. Now listen carefully. If the property is self-occupied, मैंने खुद रह रही हूँ, तो उसमें मुझे कितना डिडक्शन मिलेगा फॉर इंटरेस्ट. अगर मेरी प्रॉपर्टी 1 अप्रैल 2001 से पहले की है, the maximum amount of the interest on borrowed capital is 30,000. लेकिन कैपिटल क्यों बोरो किया होना चाहिए? प्रॉपर्टी को परचेज करने के लिए, रिन्यूअल के लिए, रिपेयरिंग के लिए. अगर मैंने घर 1 अप्रैल 2001 के बाद लिया है, तो मैक्सिमम अमाउंट ऑफ डिडक्शन इज 2 लाख रुपीस फॉर इंटरेस्ट. लेकिन लोन का पर्पस क्या होना चाहिए? घर खरीदना, घर के रिपेयर्स, घर का रिन्यूअल. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंने लोन लिया है घर खरीदने के लिए, लोन की ईएमआई भरने के लिए मैंने एक दूसरा लोन ले लिया, तो उसके ऊपर जो आप इंटरेस्ट पे करोगे उसका कोई भी डिडक्शन नहीं मिलेगा. एग्जाम में जानबूझ के ये पॉइंट आ जाती है. इंटरेस्ट फॉर द पेमेंट ऑफ लोन फॉर लोन विच यू हैड टेकन फॉर द एक्विजिशन ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी, तो उसका कोई भी डिडक्शन नहीं मिलेगा. Then you get the income from house property. Remember very well, sometime it happens that income from house property comes as negative. But before talking about the negative income, the wording in the income tax is interest on borrowed capital. It is not mentioned interest paid on the borrowed capital, which means अगर मैंने interest पे नहीं भी किया है तो भी मुझे deduction मिलेगा. लेकिन आपको वहां पे ज्यादा स्मार्ट नहीं बनना है कि आप 2 बार डिडक्शन लोगे. या तो जब आपने लोन लिया है, जब आप इंटरेस्ट पे कर रहे हो तब डिडक्शन मिलेगा, या जब इंटरेस्ट ड्यू होगा तब डिडक्शन मिलेगा. ओनली वंस. यू कैन नॉट गेट द डिडक्शन 2 times. Here sometime it happen income from the house property comes negative. So if the income is coming negative, what is going to happen? That can be set off with any other positive income. Set off मतलब सैलरी का इनकम सपोज 10 lakhs है पॉजिटिव, हाउस प्रॉपर्टी का इनकम 2 lakhs नेगेटिव आ रहा है, तो 8 lakhs would be your gross total income. Moving ahead, with the third source, profit and gains from business or profession. Now here the charging section is section 28. First one is any revenue profits from business or profession, any compensation due to or received by an agency, any income derived by trade, professional or similar association, any receipt in connection with the foreign trade, any value or benefit or perquisite from the business or profession. Here you can take an example. Suppose the doctor does a operation gets successful, उसके रिलेटिव्स पेशेंट के बहुत ज्यादा खुश हो जाते हैं और डॉक्टर को iPhone 16 गिफ्ट देते हैं. So this iPhone 16 value would be income from profession only for doctor. Any interest, any salary, bonus, commission from the partnership firm, any amount received or receivable for not carrying out any activity, any Keyman insurance policy, any income from speculative business. See, in the eyes of income tax, there is no concept called as a legal business or illegal business. If you are earning any income from any illegal business, then also it would be taxable under income from business or profession. उसका लीगैलिटी चेक करना पुलिस का काम है, पुलिस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का काम है. इनकम टैक्स का काम है सिर्फ वो इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स लगाना. तो इनकम टैक्स को वो मतलब नहीं है कि इनकम टैक्स हॉर्स रेसिंग से आया है, इनकम स्मगलिंग से आया है या इनकम नॉर्मल बिजनेस से आया है. दैट इज नॉट द जॉब ऑफ इनकम टैक्स. इनकम टैक्स का काम है सिर्फ इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स लगाना. दैट लीगैलिटी ऑफ द बिजनेस, दैट इज द वर्क ऑफ पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट. So income from speculative business is also chargeable. Now these are various income which are chargeable under profit and gains, but there are certain deductions also allowed. Deductions, if we talk about profit and gains, deductions can be anything which is related with business. यहाँ पे मैं सभी डिडक्शंस आपको नहीं बता सकती हूँ. हर बिजनेस में अलग अलग तरह के हमें डिडक्शन एक्सपेक्टेबल हैं. But in general, any expenses in respect to business premises like rent, repair, municipal taxes, insurance, any revenue expenditure of furniture, plant, that is allowable. Depreciation is important. If any asset is utilized for less than 180 days, 50% of the depreciation is allowed. And if it is utilized for more than 180 days, then full depreciation would be allowed. There are other deductions also, like insurance premium for the stock, insurance premium paid for the health of the employees, bonus or commission, any interest paid on the borrowed capital for the purpose of business, any discount on zero coupon bonds, any bad debts, it is allowed as a deduction. Any loss regarding animals, if you are in the business of animals and if any animal die, then that loss is allowed as a deduction. Then any expenditure on the family planning, it is allowed in the 5 equal installment if it is a capital expenditure, and if it is a revenue expenditure, it is allowed for every year. But this is allowed only for the company who make a provision of this family planning for its employees. Any entertainment allowance, entertainment expenses, any advertisement expenses, all such deductions are allowed. There are certain expenses which are not allowed as a deduction. If you are making any payment to the relative which is excessive, like आपकी वाइफ आपके बिजनेस में आपको हेल्प कर रही है, वो 12th पास है और आप उसको 1 लाख रुपए सैलरी दे रहे हैं, so that cannot be allowed. And if you are making any payment for any purchases of anything, for stationery, for goods, and if you are making payment in cash more than rupees 10,000 in a day, that is not allowed. आपने सैलरी दी किसी को 12,000 रुपीज कैश में, it is not allowed. 10,000 तक आप कैश में पेमेंट कर सकते हो. Beyond 10,000 you have to make a payment only and only through either check or electronic cash system or bank draft. It cannot be done in cash. और ऐसा भी नहीं होगा कि 12,000 आपने पेमेंट की, 10,000 आपको अलाउ करेंगे और 2,000 डिसअलाउ करेंगे. पूरा का पूरा डिसअलाउ हो जाएगा. So when you solve the problem on profit and gains from business or profession, basically you have to see which expenses are allowable and which expenses are disallowable. If the expenses are disallowable and you have shown in the P&L account, you have to add back. And if there is any income which is not chargeable to the business income, you have to add that income. Now coming to the fourth source, which is capital gains. Capital gain, I'm expecting a question of 10 marks in question number 4. The concept of capital gain is very narrowed down for TYBCOM students. It have section 45, which is going to explain about the capital gain. Most two important terms are capital asset and transfer. Capital asset means any property of any kind held by the assessee, whether or not connected with business or profession, any securities, but your personal effects would not be your capital asset. लेकिन personal effect में jewelry, archaeological collection, drawing, painting, sculptures, these all would be capital asset. Any rural agricultural land is capital asset. 6% government bond, 7% government bond. These are the bonds which are issued very back, like in 1977, 1980. But if you are holding that, then also it is your capital asset. Now, income tax has divided capital asset into two types, short term and long term. क्यों डिवाइड किया गया है? शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल असेट के ऊपर आपका टैक्सेशन रेट अलग होगा, लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल असेट के ऊपर आप लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन के ऊपर आप 20% टैक्स पे करोगे. शॉर्ट टर्म के ऊपर जिस स्लैब रेट में आप आओगे, सपोज आपको 30% टैक्स एप्लीकेबल है तो 30% पे होगा. Now these are the four types under short term. Any shares or securities listed in the stock exchange, if you are holding for 12 months, then it would be a short term. Unlisted shares, if you are holding for less than 24 months, short term. Any immovable property other than land or building, if you are holding for 24 months, short term. And gold, silver, everything, if you are holding for less than 36 months, it would be a short term. Iska reverse hoga long term. Now, how to calculate short-term capital gain or loss? First of all, full value of consideration. Full value of consideration का मतलब होता है sale value minus any expenditure in connection with the transfer, like brokerage, transfer expenses, cost of acquisition, कितने में हमने उसको खरीदा था, उसके ऊपर अगर कुछ improvement की है, cost of improvement, the answer you get is short-term capital gain. Then we have long-term capital gain. Full value of consideration, any expenditure, indexed cost of acquisition. Indexed cost of acquisition का मतलब है मुझे वो प्रोडक्ट की प्राइस आज के प्राइस के ऊपर लेके आनी है. सपोज मैंने 2005 में लैंड बिल्डिंग खरीदी थी, तब उसकी प्राइस थी से 20 लाख ऑफ रुपी, लेकिन उसकी आज की वैल्यू कितनी होगी, और वो कैलकुलेट करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने हमको एक फैक्टर दिया है, दैट इज कॉस्ट इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स. एंड रिमेंबर वेरी वेल, द कॉस्ट इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स फॉर आवर करंट ईयर इज 348. द बेस ईयर इज 2000. फ्रॉम 2000 में अगर आपने कुछ लिया है तो 100 वुड बी द कॉस्ट इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स, और इस साल का है 348. रिमेंबर वेरी वेल. उसके अलावा एग्जाम में अगर कोई और भी ईयर रहेगा तो उसका कॉस्ट इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स मेंशन रहेगा. तो हमें इंडेक्स कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन निकालना है, इंडेक्स्ड कॉस्ट ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट निकालना है. देन वी वुड बी गेटिंग लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन. इनकम तो मिल गई, अब डिडक्शंस. सिलेबस में दो ही डिडक्शंस हैं लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन के लिए. एक है सेक्शन 54. सेक्शन 54 सिर्फ रेसिडेंशियल हाउस के लिए है. मेरे पास रेसिडेंशियल हाउस है और मैंने उसको बेच दिया, लॉन्ग टर्म है, उसमें से गेन हुआ तो क्या डिडक्शन? गेन अगर होता है, एंड इफ यू आर परचेसिंग अ न्यू रेसिडेंशियल हाउस 1 year before the transfer, or within 2 years after the transfer, or within 3 years after the date of transfer, then the deduction would be allowed, whatever amount you are investing in the new house. लेकिन आप बोलोगे कि 2 साल तक मैं जब तक इन्वेस्ट करूं तब तक क्या करूंगा? तब तक आपको वो पैसों को डिपॉजिट करना है. कहां पे डिपॉजिट करना है? बैंक्स में एक अकाउंट रहता है, कैपिटल गेन स्कीम अकाउंट. तब तक वो पैसे आपको वहां पे डिपॉजिट करके रखने हैं. अगर आपने वो पैसे यूटिलाइज नहीं किए, देन इन दैट ईयर इट वुड बी टैक्सेबल. If the capital gain does not exceed rupees 2 crores, the assessee has the option to invest in 2 residential houses. Second deduction is section 54 EC, exemption on capital gains on sale of long term capital asset. यहाँ पे आप किसी भी लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल असेट को बेचोगे तो आपको ये डिडक्शन मिलेगा. लॉन्ग टर्म प्लस उसमें से गेन होना चाहिए. अब क्या करना है? जितना भी आपका गेन है, यू कैन इन्वेस्ट दैट अमाउंट इन द बॉन्ड्स विच इज हैविंग अ लॉक इन पीरियड ऑफ 3 years. अब वो कौन से बॉन्ड होंगे? नेशनल हाईवे अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया, रूरल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन कॉर्पोरेशन लिमिटेड, or any other bond notified by central government. But remember, you cannot make an investment of more than rupees 50 lakhs. It should be compulsory up to 50 lakhs only. So this is in short about capital gains. Moving towards the final source, income from other sources. Any income shall be chargeable to income tax from this heading, income from other sources, if it is not exempt and not chargeable to any other source. मतलब जो सैलरी भी नहीं है, हाउस प्रॉपर्टी भी नहीं है, कैपिटल गेन भी नहीं है, बिजनेस भी नहीं है, लेकिन इनकम है, तो वो कहां जाएगी? इनकम फ्रॉम अदर सोर्सेस. Coming to the few examples, the charging section is section 56(1), income from subletting of the house property. मैंने कोई घर रेंट पे लिया और वही घर किसी दूसरे को रेंट पे दे दिया, उसमें से अगर मुझे कुछ फायदा होगा, दैट वुड बी इनकम फ्रॉम अदर सोर्सेस. इंटरेस्ट ऑन बैंक डिपॉजिट, इंटरेस्ट ऑन लोन, एग्रीकल्चर इनकम फ्रॉम अ लैंड सिचुएटेड आउटसाइड इंडिया, क्योंकि एग्रीकल्चर इनकम अगर इंडिया की होगी तो इट वुड बी एग्जेम्प्टेड. इनकम फ्रॉम अनडिस्क्लोज्ड सोर्सेस, मैंने अपनी इनकम टैक्स वालों को बताई नहीं थी, उन्होंने रेड डाल दी मेरे ऊपर और उन्हें मेरे घर में से 10 लाख रुपए मिले, वो 10 लाख होगा मेरा इनकम फ्रॉम अदर सोर्सेस. Any remuneration received by a person from a person other than his employer, like examination fee received by the teacher, director fees, these all would be income from other sources. Even any income from winning from lottery, crossword puzzle, race, betting, gambling, by whatsoever nature you call, it would be income from other sources. Even if you are giving furniture, machinery, plant, etc. on rent, then also it would be income from other sources. Even dividend income is income from other sources. Now, what deduction is allowed from income from other sources? Any reasonable sum paid by way of commission, remuneration for the purpose of that income. या मैं अगर कहाँ पे इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रही हूँ, शेयर्स में इन्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ, इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए मैंने कोई लोन लिया है और वो लोन के ऊपर मैं इंटरेस्ट पे कर रही हूँ, इट इज अलाउड. मैं बुक लिख रही हूँ, मुझे रॉयल्टी इनकम है, बुक को टाइप कराने के लिए मैं पैसे लगा रही हूँ, दैट इज अलाउड. आपने फर्नीचर को रेंट पे दिया है, मशीनरी को रेंट पे दिया है, तो उसकी रिपेयरिंग अलाउड है, डेप्रिसिएशन अलाउड है. रीजनेबल एक्सपेंडिचर फ्रॉम इनकम फ्रॉम अदर सोर्सेस इज अलाउड. Now, pension is chargeable for employee as income. Say, for example, I am employed with a college. I retire. On my retirement, I get a pension. Suppose after 3 years, I die. My spouse is going to get the family pension. Now, in his hands, it would be income from other sources. So, family pension में deduction मिलेगा 1/3 of the pension or 15,000, whichever is less. So this much is something about income from other sources. Now coming to the last part of the syllabus, that is deductions. We have these seven deductions. This is allowed from gross total income. One is section 80C. 80C is allowed when you make a investment, like investment in LIC premium, investment for the fees of your children, tuition fee जो आपके fee receipt का component है, आपने provident fund में invest किया, the maximum amount of the deduction allowed is rupees 1,50,000 and it is allowed only and only to individual and HUF. 80CCD is your investment in national pension scheme. If you are making investment in national pension scheme, then you would be getting a deduction of rupees extra 50,000. The next deduction is section D, 80D. This is your deduction for Mediclaim policy. If you are taking a Mediclaim insurance policy for self, for your family, dependent on you, for your parents, then you would be getting a deduction of rupees 25,000 if nobody is a senior citizen. And if you are taking a policy for the senior citizen, the upper limit is 50,000. This deduction would be only and only allowed if the payment of the premium is made not in cash. जानबूझ के पेपर में दे देंगे कि कैश में पेमेंट की है. So that is 80D. Then we have section 80DD. DD मतलब डिपेंडेंट डिसेबल. मेरे ऊपर कोई भी डिपेंडेंट डिसेबल है और डिसेबिलिटी अगर 50% है, उसकी मेंटेनेंस के लिए मुझे डिडक्शन अलाउड है. मैं उसके ऊपर कितना भी खर्चा करूं, अगर डिसेबिलिटी 50% से कम है तो 75,000 अलाउड है. डिसेबिलिटी 50% से ज्यादा है तो 1,25,000 अलाउड है. देन इज सेक्शन 80E. 80E इज एजुकेशन लोन. अगर मैं एजुकेशन लोन अपने लिए या अपने स्पाउस के लिए या अपने बच्चों के लिए ले रही हूँ, तो उसमें मैं जितना भी इंटरेस्ट पे करूंगी, दैट वुड बी अलाउड एज डिडक्शन. कितने सालों तक? 7 years, या जितना लोन का पीरियड है, whichever is less. Then comes section 80TTA, which is for interest on saving bank account. अगर मेरा सेविंग बैंक अकाउंट है और मुझे उसमें से इंटरेस्ट मिल रहा है, जितना भी इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा अप टू रुपीज 10,000 इज अलाउड एज अ डिडक्शन. एंड फाइनल डिडक्शन इज सेक्शन 80U. इफ आई एम माई सेल्फ डिसेबल्ड, then I would be getting a deduction of 80U. This is the ad hoc deduction. इसमें आप इन्वेस्ट अपने ऊपर खर्चा करो या ना करो, वो भी आपको डिडक्शन मिलेगा. कितना मिलेगा? 75,000 अगर डिसेबिलिटी is less than 50% and 1,25,000 if the disability is more than 50%. So this is the last thing for deductions. So thank you very much. I tried to cover maximum thing within the given duration. Reena madam.
Thank you ma'am. It was a wonderful session. इतने बड़े टॉपिक को, वास्ट सब्जेक्ट को आपने इतने कम टाइम में और इतनी अच्छी तरह से कवर किया. Almost all the points were covered by you. Ma'am, will you please stop sharing the screen?
Yes, ma'am. That only I'm doing. Yeah.
So this was the final review of the subject DIT, direct and indirect taxes, and I hope students have cleared their concepts as to, first of all, understanding the concept is very important, because once the concepts are clear, it will be easy for the students to deal with the adjustments. So thank you very much, ma'am. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. C.A. Bhavne Binwani, ma'am, who spared her valuable time and delivered such a useful session for our students. I also thank the management and founder principal of S.S.T College, Dr. J.C. Purswani, sir, and IKC coordinator, Dr. Vishnu Purswani, ma'am, for guiding to take this session. I thank the Department of Commerce to conduct this session. I also thank the technical staff to provide or to facilitate for conducting this crash course series. And last but not the least, thank you to all the student fraternity for attending this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, madam, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on income tax. Thank you very much. Ma'am, shall I stop sharing?
Yes, sir.
Shall I close my video?
Yes.
Okay.